Do you have trauma? Are you weighed down by trauma? Are you trying to manifest and hold on to a different assumption and create a new future for yourself, but you are conflicted and confused? You don't want to bypass or suppress your trauma, but you don't want to hold on to it or deal with it because that is the very negative emotion and vibrational energy that is keeping you stuck and keeping you sick. So if you are confused about this, I am going to bring clarity to the subject for you today. Good morning, it's Lisa with Lisa Heal Yourself, and today we are going to discuss trauma because I've been talking a lot about manifestation. I've been talking a lot about living from the end, the power of your assumption and what you hold to be true and how that is key. But so many people don't understand. So many people are lost and confused when it comes to, but I can't hold that because of what happened to me, because of the trauma that's inside me. People get confused saying, are you telling me that that trauma doesn't matter? That I should suppress that trauma, that I should push that trauma down and hold something more positive, hold a more positive state? Because aren't I just denying my own trauma, my own feelings, and my own emotions? So I really want to dive into this today and clear this up. So if you're interested in this topic, in this video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and let's get into it. So first, let's briefly go over what is trauma. Trauma started and trauma began with an event, with an experience, something that happened to you that was difficult, that was hard, that was shameful, that was scary, that was out of the norm of your expectation. It startled you. It changed you fundamentally in some way. It changed your perception of the world, of other people, changed your perception of yourself. It was such a shocking event, such a terrible or heartbreaking or sad or scary or angry or shameful event that it caused you to change who you think you are. That maybe you're not safe, that maybe you're not lovable, that maybe you're not worthy, that maybe bad things just happen to good people. It shifted your view of the people in your world that you thought you could count on, that you thought loved you, that you thought would be there for you, that you thought would protect you. Or it changed your view of the world, of how the world works, of your belonging and your place in the world, of whether you're safe in the world, of whether you belong, of whether you're loved, of whether you're accepted. So trauma is something overwhelming and extremely difficult that you go through. It is an experience, a lived experience. You live it in all parts of your body. You live it in your mind. You live it in your body. You live it in your heart, and you live it in your soul. Trauma is a lived experience that you feel everywhere. You feel it in your heart. Trauma affects you, body, mind, heart, and soul. And that is what's so powerful about trauma. That is why it stays with us. The key word that I just said there is stays with us. So if you experience a trauma, if you experience something difficult, but you're able to put yourself back together, your worldview back together, your view of yourself, your view of others, if you are able to go back to the world that you lived in before experiencing the trauma, then that trauma doesn't stay with you. Then it was a trauma that you're able to resolve and let go of. This is natural because bad things happen in the world. Because shocking things, scary things, things that are traumatic happen to people. And if we are able to resolve them and continue to live in the same world, in the same body, with the same feelings, thoughts, and emotions, and we're able to integrate what happened in a way that makes sense, and we're able to go back to feeling safe, to feeling loved, to feeling belonging, to feeling like everything is okay, then we have lived through a trauma and we have resolved a trauma. The problem with trauma is that most of it is held onto. Most of it doesn't happen in the moment or in the initial experience. Most of it happens after the fact, actually. It happens in our hearts, through our emotions. It happens in our minds. We turn it over and over. It happens in our soul. It happens in our body. It happens afterwards. This is what's known as post-traumatic stress. So this is what most of us are actually suffering from, PTSD or CPTSD, also known as complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Meaning that it's not just coming or stemming from one traumatic event or experience, but from several different, more complex traumatic experiences that have built upon each other. So in this case, it may be several different isolated traumatic experiences that are built on each other, that reinforce each other, or maybe it's an ongoing traumatic experience that you're still in or you can't get away from. This is known as CPTSD, which is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Similar but different from post-traumatic stress disorder, which is usually from one isolated event or experience. One person, one thing that happened. So in the case of chronic illness, we are dealing with a complex trauma, because the illness itself is ongoing and hard to get away from and traumatizing in and of itself. But you may have previous childhood experiences and previous traumatic experiences that were the initial trauma that everything built around and was reinforced from, and that has tangled upon itself in, making this a very deeply complex trauma. And that is why it sometimes seems overwhelming and difficult to solve. But it actually isn't. So when we remember that trauma is basically just negative energy that we are holding on to. Negative energy, a lower vibration, this negative weight, its thoughts, its feelings, its emotion, right? It's our beliefs. We are holding on to these negative, deeply negative energies stored in our minds, hearts, bodies, and souls that are weighing us down. Okay, so trauma is this negative energy that we are holding on to. We are keeping alive. We are actually creating with our thoughts and our beliefs and our emotions. We are creating these feelings in our body, right? We are creating it now. It is no longer happening in the present tense, or if your chronic illness is still happening, or if something is still happening, the entirety of the trauma is mostly over. The big pieces of the initial trauma that happened, or the traumas that are difficult to process and look back on, are over. We keep them alive in our mind, body, heart, and soul. We hold on to them like weights and suitcases that we carry everywhere. And then, because we don't want them, we don't want anything to do with them, we don't want them to have happened, we don't want them to ever happen again, we don't want to think about them, even though we have them, we're holding on to them. We create patterns and beliefs and ways of living in the world that basically fight the very thing that we're holding on to. We try to get away from what we're holding on to. We try to fight it. We try to make sure it will never happen again. We try to make sure it's not there. We develop all these ways of being and living in the world so that we don't have to deal with these heavy weights in the suitcases that we are holding. This is why trauma is so difficult, because we spend our life trying to get away from the very thing that we are holding onto. We spend our life trying to create situations and personality traits and ways of being in the world, develop tactics and tools to help ourselves feel safe and loved. We bury these suitcases and these weights where we can't see them. It's like we're holding them and we put up a curtain. We shove them behind the curtain and pretend we're not holding them and show a different face to the world. Like, what? I don't have any suitcases. I'm not holding suitcases. It's what it's like when we shove all of our traumas into our unconscious, pretend it's not there, develop tactics and ways of being and thinking and believing in the world that help to keep us feeling safe so we don't have to deal with the very thing that we are actually holding on to ourselves. And this is exhausting because even though we go to great lengths to hide and shove away and repress these very heavy suitcases with weights in them that we are holding, they come up. They come up all the time. A heavy wind blows and the sheet blows away and the suitcases are exposed. So things held in the unconscious part of our mind eventually come to the surface and they become exposed. Often they become exposed. We think we're not exposing the whole thing, but we can see it. Other people can clearly see that what's inside is being exposed through triggers in our life. Something happens. So if you are holding a cup that's empty and someone bumps you, nothing comes out of the cup. If you are holding a cup that is filled to the brim with coffee and somebody bumps you, it spills out all over you and all over them. Every time you are bumped, your trauma spills over. But instead of just emptying the cup, we hold on to the cup even tighter. We develop new ways to pretend that there isn't coffee in our cup. We develop new ways of living and new tactics and new beliefs and new patterns. We build thermoses around it. We build interesting lids. We try to figure out how it is that we can walk around with this coffee, not have anybody know that we've got hot coffee in it and not get burned every time somebody bumps into us. So we build all these unique patterns and way of being in the world, but it doesn't change the fact that we have hot coffee in our hands at all times, right? It doesn't change the fact that we're holding onto these big, heavy suitcases full of weights. And when the wind blows, they are exposed. We can see behind the curtain. When we're walking uphill, they get heavier. It gets harder. When difficult things happen in our life, it gets harder to carry this trauma around up large hills through difficult times in our life. This is why living with trauma can feel overwhelming and exhausting. It can feel completely exhausting from every angle of your being because you are busy denying, suppressing, rejecting, pushing away, trying to hide, fighting with, trying to fix or change or make it different. Maybe you are denying that it even exists, or you are covered head to toe in armor, going straight on into a head-on battle with it. No matter how you are dealing with trauma and what tactics and tools and ways of being in this world that you're using to cover up your trauma, it is still there. This heavy suitcase full of weights still comes with you wherever you go. The hot coffee still comes with you wherever you go. And so instead of emptying and dumping the cup or setting down the heavy suitcases full of weights and walking freely away from them, we think it's our lot in life to carry them with us. We think that they not only hold weights, but they hold something else valuable inside that we must carry with us. And so we're afraid to set down the weights, we're afraid to set down the bag, we're afraid to dump out the hot coffee because we think that there is something valuable inside that is coming along with the pain and with the exhaustion and with the negative, heavy energy that we bring everywhere. We think that there is a message, there is a piece of gold in those suitcases with the heavy bags, or there is a vitamin or nutrient or energy producing compound in the coffee that we simply can't live without. So even though it's hot, even though it can spill and burn us, we feel that we need to carry it with us because we don't want to lose the valuable parts of what is inside the cup, the valuable parts that may be also inside the heavy bags of rocks. And the valuable parts that you think you're carrying are the lessons that you learned. But not only the lessons that you learned, the lessons that you want to remember, the lessons that your survival instinct need you to remember and know so that this doesn't happen to you again, so that you can keep yourself safe and protected and loved in an insecure, unstable environment or world. More than that, what you think you are carrying around is you. You think you're carrying around the version of you, the smaller you, the wounded part of yourself. And you think you are carrying this part of yourself in the suitcases, in the coffee cup. And that is why it's so hard to let go of, because you don't want to abandon that little you, that wounded you. It is almost like a mother bear's love. If you are a mother caring for a baby, you wouldn't abandon your baby. You would say, I will carry these heavy suitcases and these rocks with me for my entire life, because you are also in that suitcase, and I will never abandon you. I will never give up on you. I will never set you down. I will never set you down to gain relief for myself. I will carry the burden for you. I will hold you. I will protect you. I will be here for you. I will never let you go. I will carry you with me in these heavy suitcases, and I will do that. And that is a sacrifice I'm willing to make because I love you that much. So animals in the wild are a great example of this. If a wolf cub gets hurt and is injured and has a traumatic run-in with a wild animal, and the wolf picks up the cub by the scruff of the neck and carries it, the mother wolf protects it and says, I will not abandon you. I will not leave you. I will carry you with me. This shouldn't have happened. I should have been protecting you. I should have been watching you. This is my fault. She was maybe too far away. She was securing their dinner. She was hunting. She was cleaning the den or watching one of the other cubs. She wasn't there to protect it from the attack that it endures. And because she loves her young so much, because it is built into her as a built-in survival mechanism for her to care for her young, she will carry that wolf cub by the scruff of its neck with her as they travel, with her as they go onward, and as they migrate across the woods. But at some point in the wild, the mother will realize that this cub is sick and injured and maybe not going to make it. And if she doesn't let it go, if she doesn't abandon it, she herself will put herself in jeopardy and her other cubs in jeopardy. And so eventually, begrudgingly, maybe not even easily, the mother wolf will let go of the scruff of the neck and leave the pup to survive or die on its own, to let nature take its course. But the mother knows she can no longer carry this weight forward, no matter how much she wants to, no matter how much her survival instincts tell her to. Something at some point in nature will override that. She will set down that weight and she will carry on for her own survival. Nature will do this, but humans will not. We hold on to that trauma, even if it sinks us down, even if it destroys us, and even if it means jeopardizing our own survival, our own happiness, our own joy, our own freedom, and our own healing in this life. So what happened to you, the wounded you, at one point in time, you don't want to abandon that little you, that wounded you. And so you vow to hold on to it. You vow to hold on to the heavy suitcases, the hot coffee, to bring them with you wherever it goes, as long as it means that you don't have to abandon that wounded part of yourself inside you that desperately needs you. And so instead, you go into a state of ongoing fight or flight. You are constantly on guard. You are living in low, negative energies of shame and guilt and anger and sadness and loneliness and fear and rejection and despair, but you think you are doing a good thing. You're doing it for the right reason. You're doing it to protect the inner wounded part of you that you know cannot experience that again, can't go through something as traumatic as that again. So now you are building your tools, you're building your patterns, you change your beliefs, you change your worldview, you change everything about yourself and manufacture a life that protects this part of you, that attempts and aims to keep this part of you safe so that you don't have to experience feeling that way again. The secret is the more that we love ourselves and the more guilt and shame we carry for not being able to help that wounded part of ourselves in the first place, the longer and harder we carry this trauma with us. And that is why forgiving oneself, not even just the situation and the other people involved, although you must do that too, but forgiving yourself so that you can let go of the guilt and shame that you hold for your part in letting whatever happened happen, not being able to solve it or fix it or get yourself out of it or protect yourself or whatever it may be, whatever shame and guilt that you carry. Forgiving yourself is essential so that you can set the bags down, so that you can empty the coffee cup. Because if you don't let go of that guilt and shame that you hold for your part in allowing this to happen, if you don't absolve yourself of the full responsibility of making sure that it will never happen again, and nobody in this whole world can make sure of that. As long as you live with the weight of the responsibility of basically being God, you have to be God to make sure that this can and will never happen again. You have to have the strength of God and the strength of 1,000 armies. Simply can't control every factor to make sure that you are loved and safe and secure and that this never happens again. You can't. And when you hold the responsibility like you can, you allow yourself to hold on to this trauma. You allow your suitcases to be so full and weighted down and heavy. And your extreme sense of responsibility for never allowing it to happen again is keeping you stuck, is keeping you sick, and it's keeping you bringing that coffee cup and those heavy weighted down suitcases with you everywhere you go for the rest of your life. And most of us are willing to do that. Most of us are willing to bear that responsibility if the trauma was extreme enough and you think, I have no other choice. I've got to make sure that this never happens again. I will stake my life on it. And if you carry that trauma with this much responsibility and with this much intensity and with this much care and concern, you can never be free. Just like that wolf can never run and eat and enjoy its life as it drags around its injured wolf cub for the rest of its life. It will never live the life that it is meant to live while it is carrying a burden that it cannot even fix or save. You must forgive yourself, and you must let yourself off the hook of the responsibility of being God. You need to know that you did your best. And even if you didn't, even if you feel you could have done more back then, that you have learned the lessons and that you are doing your best and you'll continue to do your best, but that there is an element of life that is unpredictable. You simply cannot safeguard against every potential threat for the rest of your life, or you will ruin your entire life. This is what trauma does. This negative energy that we carry everywhere with us keeps us sick, keeps us weighted down, keeps us stuck, keeps us living in patterns with worldviews that we don't even want to hold anymore, keeps us with personal beliefs that we hold about ourselves that are not helpful. So You cannot suppress or reject or deny or disown or try to change or try to fix trauma. You have to resolve it, and you have to forgive it, and you have to let it go. Because if you don't let it go, you cannot hold or manifest anything that you want, because you will never be in the energy of what it is that you want to attract. And you can't push it down, push it away, deny it, and pretend it's not there, and try to hold a different energy. You actually must set the suitcases down. You actually must empty the cup. And then you can replace it with the energy of what it is that you do want, with the vision of what it is that you do want. Then you can truly hold onto these new energies that you want to manifest in your life. Okay, so the first thing to know that's really important is that you are not your body. Okay, you're not your physical body, you're not your mind, you're not your emotions, right? You are not any of those things. You are the soul. You are the perfect God-like energy. You are the higher version of yourself that isn't weighted down by your body, by your emotions, by your thoughts. Because you live in a body, because you have a mind and a heart, this is how they communicate with you. This is how your body speaks to you. It speaks to you through sensations in the body, or symptoms if you have chronic illness. Your body is speaking through sensations and symptoms. Or your body is speaking through thoughts, right? I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, no one's ever gonna love me, this will never work out, right? So you either have overwhelming sensations and symptoms, your body is speaking through these sensations, or it's speaking through thoughts, these negative thoughts that are going on in your mind, or it's speaking through emotions, these feelings, these emotions of sadness or anger or fear, right? Or shame or guilt. We have this feeling or this emotion that wells up through our heart. These are not bad. None of these are bad. Sensations, symptoms, thoughts, feelings, emotions, none of these are bad. These are ways that you communicate to yourself. In some cases, these are ways that you are screaming to yourself. You're pointing. You are saying something is wrong. We are out of balance. There is a problem. It's showing you what needs to be addressed. If you are having overwhelming sadness, then you know the part of yourself that needs to be addressed are your emotions, are your grief. You need to work through this grief, through whatever happened. Maybe you have a sensation in your body, stomach issues, or pain all over your body. Your body is pointing to what's wrong. We need to heal the gut, or we need to address the pain in our life. Maybe you have a loud ruminating thought of, and nobody will ever love me. You know you need to address the part of you that doesn't feel loved, doesn't feel like they can ever be loved. So the body communicates to you in actually very direct ways. And those thoughts aren't there to torture you. The symptoms and sensations aren't there to torture you. The emotions aren't there to torture you. They are there to help you. They are there to communicate to you that there's a problem, that you're living out of balance, that something needs to be addressed and fixed so that you can get back into harmony and living in balance with yourself. So if we just push these sensations and symptoms and thoughts and emotions and feelings away and suppress them, or hide them, or reject them, or deny them, or disown them, or try to fix or change them, or fight with them, or go to battle with them, we are not addressing the communication that your body is trying to give you. You're not addressing the problem, and you're not restoring balance. You're not fixing what needs to be fixed. You're not looking at what needs to be looked at. You're not forgiving or loving the parts that need forgiveness or love. And so the first step is actually looking at what is being communicated. Thanking your body. Thank you. Thank you for continuing to send me this message, even though I'm trying to deny it, reject it, or fight it. Thank you for continuing to give me this symptom or this sensation or this thought or this emotion. Thank you for pointing me in the direction of what needs to be healed. So when we thank it, when we open up to it, and when we say, okay, I want to listen, I want to hear what you're telling me, because I know you think something's not right, and I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to thank you, and I want to work with you. I want to work with you so that you feel heard, you feel loved, you feel seen, you feel taken care of, you feel acknowledged, you feel understood, right? It is your goal to thank and to try to understand the parts of you that are pointing to the problem. This is that ancient part of your brain that isn't going to give up, that's saying, this is the problem, this is the problem, this is the danger, right? It's just alerting you over and over. Thank that part. It is a necessary part. Stop spending your time fighting that part or ignoring that part. Embrace the part. Thank the part. Acknowledge the part. Thank you for showing and telling me this. I can see that, yes, we do have a problem. We are, yes, out of balance, and that this needs to be acknowledged and accepted right here, right now. So learn to trust yourself again. Learn to listen to yourself again. Develop that inner sense of trust and love, to listen to that inner wisdom that you have. We all have this inner wisdom. Is your soul trying to guide you? You're out of alignment. Something's not right here. That is your true self. That is your wisdom. It's trying to send you messages through the only means of communications that it has. Through sensations, symptoms, emotions, feelings, thoughts. Your soul is sending you a message directly to you through its only means of communication that it has. Learn to know what is your soul talking to you and what are the patterns talking to you. Learn to know what is the truth that is speaking to you and what are just parts of you that are on autopilot trying to protect. The reason why manifestation is so powerful in the law of vibration, the law of manifestation, right? Attraction, and the law of assumption is because we are attracting to us what we want. We are holding what we want. We are assuming what we want. We are basically living in the power of our true real self, of our God self, right? Of our soul. When we live from this part of ourself, we can attract and manifest anything into our life. This is when abundance comes to us. This is when healing happens. But as long as we are lugging around those heavy suitcases, as long as we are creating a protection mechanism around ourselves in which to view the world and deal with and live our life so that we are protected from the very thing that we're carrying around, we can never manifest. We can't truly live from the soul. We can't align mind, body, heart, and soul into the truest version of ourselves. So we can never attract who and what it is that we want. So yes, we can try to hold on, right, to this vibration. We can try to hold on to visualizations and a future version of ourselves. We can try. But then we look down and we realize, or we're bumped, and the coffee spills out, or we realize that we're still holding those suitcases and we're just basically draping a sheet over them so that we can't see them. They're still there. What we want to do is set them down. What we want to do is empty the cup. Then we can replace it with what it is that we want and who it is that we are. People always make the mistake of putting manifestation and visualization and brain retraining and all these things first. But they can never truly, they can try. You can try. You can come in the back door and suddenly you're holding something for long enough that it's easier to set down the cup, to empty the cup, or it's easier to set down the suitcases. But you must ultimately let go of that trauma so that you can have a new perspective. You can create a new worldview. You can change your beliefs. You can let go of the protective mechanisms, right? You can heal and forgive the shame, the guilt, the burden, and the responsibility of everything that you are carrying. So is it essential that you forgive everyone? No. Some people never want to forgive what happened, right? But forgiving yourself is essential. Forgiving yourself for your part in it, for your abandonment of you, for the things you didn't know, the things you didn't do, the things you didn't say, for whatever you weren't strong enough to handle, for not loving yourself enough, for abandoning yourself, whatever it is that you need forgiveness from yourself for. That's where the power is. That's where the work is. That's where the resolution is. That's where the letting go is. And it is great if you can forgive the world, forgive the other people, because we don't want to hold any of it. But the most important aspect is the forgiveness of yourself. And in the forgiveness, we're looking for resolution. Sometimes animals in the wild, they don't need to forgive in order to resolve stress held in the body, right? They shake. They do other things to release. So we have tools, and we have all these different wonderful ways, including journaling, talking about it, crying, shaking, exercising, moving, running, somatic practices and therapeutic practices, right? Talking, journaling, parts work, shadow work. We have all of these tools that help us to release the negative energy that we're holding, to release what it is that no longer serves us, and to forgive ourselves, because the ultimate goal is to let it go. When you've had a release, whether it's a physical release or a mental release or an emotional release, you've had those probably in your life before, right? Been holding something back, somebody asked you about it and you just sob. You have an emotional release. When you release it, when you share the load, share the burden, maybe you give it to a therapist, you give it to a friend, a partner, you give it to God, you let it go, you give it to the universe, you let it out of your body in a way that you know it's over, that you feel seen, you feel heard, you feel validated, you feel understood, and you feel loved. When this happens, no matter what way the release happens, and it can happen mind, body, heart, or soul, we have tools in all of the areas for this release. When we feel totally witnessed, heard, seen, accepted, loved, validated, when this is our experience and we feel like, okay, it's done now, it's over, it's behind me, we can put ourselves back together. We can carry on living in the world in a new way. We don't have to hold the protection part around us anymore. We don't have to continue to bring the hot coffee with us. We don't have to continue to carry the bags anymore. We say, I'm setting them down here. I know there's valuable lessons I learned in them. I know there's some gold in these suitcases along with the heavy rocks, but I'm willing to let it go. I'm willing to trust again, to trust myself, to build that relationship of self-love with myself, right? I'm willing to be there for myself. I'm willing to forgive all of those parts of me. I'm willing to build new relationship with myself, trust myself. I am ready and able to start anew, and I'm not going to try to play God anymore. I know I'm doing the best I can, and I'll continue to do the best I can, and that is all I can do. When we release the burden on ourselves for having to be perfect and to having to get it right and never letting something like that happen again, we release that extreme, overwhelming sense of responsibility. When we let go of the guilt and the shame and the past, and we say, I forgive myself, I'm letting it go, I'm here now. And this can happen in a moment, right? A physical, mental, spiritual, or emotional release. Or it can titrate over time in slow bits. But when we truly let it go, then we're ready to say, what do I want instead? What do I want to believe instead? Who do I want to be instead? What do I want to manifest? Right? What do I want to assume to be true now? And you need to change at this point your identity. you now can change your full identity, who it is that you believe, your worldview, your identity, your beliefs, what you want. You can put those in replace of everything that you were holding, and now you can manifest. Now you can truly manifest. Now you can truly begin to live in the end. So when trauma comes up, when feelings comes up, when your body is talking to you, no, you don't ignore it. You sit with it. You listen to it. You thank it. You understand it. You attempt to be a witness to it. You give yourself permission to forgive yourself and to let go. This is how we heal trauma. And we may have to do it over and over and over in the case of complex post-traumatic stress, right? When it's complex, when there are many things, many traumas that have built up upon themselves, this process isn't like one event or one thing that you need to resolve. It's many. So you don't push these feelings and traumas down when they come up. You don't fight them. You don't hold on to your manifestations in your mind and say, I don't see you, trauma. I don't see you, feelings in the body, right? You listen to your body. You thank it. You do the work right there and then. And when you have the release, when you have forgiven yourself, when you're ready to let go of that part of the trauma, you replace it with what it is that you do want. You replace it with your manifestations. You replace it with your own power. You call back and take back your own power, and remember that you are the co-creator of your life, and you can create whatever it is that you want as long as you stay in the vibration of it. Healing is a process, right? The pendulum swings into the trauma side of things, into the things where your body's speaking to you through thoughts and feelings and emotions, and you need to look at it, you need to heal it. And when you do have that release, when you do heal something, it swings like a pendulum to the other side, and you're more in your love, your joy. You can manifest more easily. You swing, and then something happens, and you go back into the trauma, and you go forth into the manifestation and into the vibration of what it is that you want. Healing is not one linear process. It's a pendulum swinging back and forth, finding its balance, coming into harmony, integrating and becoming whole and centered and balanced. It plays out in cycles, in waves, over time. With each new cycle, with each new release comes more healing. With each new release comes more healing. We can begin to flow and ebb and flow with the cycles of healing. We begin to come into balance, we begin to come into harmony, we begin to integrate, we begin to bring the parts back into the whole, and we begin to truly heal. So manifestation work and the law of vibration and the law of assumption is not a way to bypass your trauma. These are different sides of dealing with trauma. There are different ways to integrate yourself and to piece yourself back together. And they work hand in hand with each other. They work like a pendulum, often going back and forth. Healing trauma, standing in your power and manifesting, then healing trauma, becoming who it is you want to be, healing trauma, calling your manifestations into your life, right? It goes back and forth like a pendulum until you come into balance and harmony in the middle, and you can claim that state of being. You become what it is that you are. You've reclaimed yourself. You are now the highest version of you, living in authenticity with yourself. You are powerfully creating your future, and you are freely forgiving and letting go of your past. This is when you come into harmony in the present moment, and you're able to live with joy, calm, peace. You're able to live here, now, in the present moment. And you feel whole. You feel complete. This is how you put yourself back together when you're dealing with trauma. This is how you manifest your future when you are trying to work with the laws of the universe and the law of vibration. They work hand in hand. They are not in opposition to each other. And if you liked this video, go check out an oldie but a goodie of mine where I talk about the ways that these are not in opposition to each other. This will give you different insights. It will give you another way to look at it. and it will really cement in what I am saying here. So go ahead and watch that video. And if you're interested in my free healing cheat sheet, where I give you the top 10 tips to heal yourself from chronic illness, click the link in the description box and I will send that to you. And if you are interested in taking my Become Your Own Healer program, Part 1 is available now, and I will leave that in the description box below. If you want to go full immersion and finally heal your chronic illness, this is the one and only course that you will ever need, because it puts you in the driver's seat of your healing. It teaches you how to heal yourself, mind, body, heart, and soul. So I hope you liked this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.